Hey warriors, welcome to Empowerment in Illness. I'm Gwen, your host. During my research for this episode, I wondered, what if your health outcome had less to do with your symptoms and more to do with your skin color, your income, your gender, or your zip code? What if your identity, not your illness, determined whether you'd be believed, treated, or even diagnosed at all? You can show up in pain, and they'll tell you it's anxiety. You can collapse in the street, and they'll check your criminal record before your vitals. You can even fight every day just to be heard and still leave the clinic without a plan, without a diagnosis, without dignity. This is episode 2 of our deep dive series, The System Isn't Broken, It Was Built This Way. Today's topic is healthcare inequality, how identity and environment directly impact who gets treated, who gets ignored, and who gets harmed in this system. By the end of this episode, we're going to unpack how healthcare inequality shows up in real time for marginalized people with chronic illness. Not just what it is, but what it feels like. Because the moment you live in a black body, a woman's body, an overweight body, a disabled body, a chronically ill body, a trans body, or anybody that the system wasn't built to prioritize, you don't just get delayed. You get erased. This isn't about rare diseases or medical mysteries. It's about everyday people, black, brown, indigenous, LGBTQ+, disabled, and immigrant patients being overlooked because of who they are, because of where they live, because they don't look like the medical textbook version of illness. We're talking about systemic failure today, but we're also talking about grief. The grief of being sick in a system that only listens when it's convenient. The grief of being told over and over again that your pain must be your fault. The grief of watching your body decline, not because of the condition, but because of the delay in care. Let's talk about it. Healthcare isn't neutral. It never has been. It was built on inequality, rooted in hierarchies, and steeped in assumptions that still linger in every waiting room, exam room, and emergency room today. When a Latina woman walks in the ER reporting severe abdominal pain and is given Tylenol instead of tests, that's not a fluke. That's a system operating on bias. When a black man collapses during a flare-up and the ambulance takes him to jail instead of the hospital, that's not a one-off. That's racial profiling inside medical infrastructure. The numbers back this up. Black patients are 22% less likely to receive any pain medication than white patients with similar symptoms. In emergency settings, 57% of black patients with fractures received painkillers compared to 74% of white patients. After surgery, black patients are 29% less likely to receive multimodal pain management. They are also 8% less likely to receive emergency surgical consultations. And the deeper you sit into intersectional identities, the more severe the dismissal becomes. LGBTQ+ patients are often misdiagnosed or treated with suspicion. Disabled individuals have their symptoms folded in their existing diagnosis, making it impossible to get help for anything new. And when someone is both queer and disabled, or black and overweight, or trans and immunocompromised, the medical gaslighting intensifies. These delays aren't just frustrating, they're dangerous. Early detection saves lives. Timely intervention prevents disability. But when your symptoms are reflected through a lens of racism, classism, or transphobia, you don't get early detection. You get brushed off. So I ask, Have you ever been treated like a risk instead of a patient? Let's talk about fat phobia and gender bias, because they don't just live in culture. They live in clinics. They live in diagnostics delays. They live in the assumption that weight is the cause of every symptom and that women are too emotional to assess their own pain accurately. One woman in our community showed up with classic signs of thyroid dysfunction: fatigue, cold sensitivity, hair loss. Her doctor didn't run any labs. He looked at her and told her to lose weight. That was it. That was the entire appointment. She left feeling humiliated, still sick, and still without a diagnosis. Another listener, assigned female at birth, had been dealing with brain fog, joint pain, and low-grade fever for years. She was told it was hormonal. She was told it was stress. No one ever considered autoimmune disease. Years later, she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and fibromyalgia, two conditions that disproportionately affect women. By the time she was believed, irreparable damage had already set in. I can attest to that because I have my own story. Before I received my lupus diagnosis, the doctor treating me didn't refer me out. He didn't escalate my care. He kept me in his office, visit after visit, on a daily basis, while I continued to get worse. He took labs. No labs were escalated, no hospitalization, just vague instructions to monitor it. I look back now and wonder, if I were a man, would he have admitted me? Would he have taken me seriously? Because I was deteriorating in front of him, and he did nothing. This is what gender bias looks like in real time. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet indifference that lets you suffer longer. And if you advocate for yourself, you're labeled dramatic, emotional, hysterical, difficult. And once that label follows you, it becomes harder to get anyone to listen. Do you ever wonder what it would feel like to be treated like a full human, not a stereotype? Healthcare inequality isn't just about bias. It's about distance, about infrastructure, about zip codes and transportations and clinic closures. It's about living in places where getting care isn't impossible, but it's close. One listener shared that she lives in a rural town with no rheumatologist within 200 miles. Her symptoms kept escalating, but there's no one nearby to evaluate her. By the time she finally got an appointment, she had lost significant mobility. The specialist told her, "You should have come in sooner." She wanted to scream. She did try. The system didn't meet her halfway. Even in urban areas, low-income neighborhoods often have clinics that are underfunded, understaffed, and overbooked. Wait times are outrageous. Referral loops are endless, and patients get stuck in a cycle of delayed appointments, expired paperwork, and no follow-up care. If you don't have a car, good luck. If you can't miss work, you're considered non-compliant. We also see caregivers sacrificing their health entirely for their families. They skip appointments, delay treatments, ration medications, because they're expected to be strong. By the time they do seek care, their illnesses are often advanced. This isn't neglect. This is survival inside a broken system. Accessing health care in America is like trying to board a train that only stops for certain people. If you're too far, too complicated, or too poor, you're left behind. The train keeps moving, and your pain, it waits and waits. So I ask, what's the longest distance you've ever had to travel just to see a doctor? Have you ever canceled care? Not because you felt better, but because you couldn't afford the time or cost. What would healing look like if care came to you, not the other way around? For many of us, the worst part isn't the flare-up or the fatigue. It's the feeling of being invisible. It's not just we're sick. It's that we're sick and unseen, sick and blamed, sick and silenced. You start to wonder if maybe you are exaggerating. You start to speak less in appointments because speaking up has never worked before. This emotional toll is a kind of trauma that lives inside the body. You brace yourself every time you walk into a new clinic. You rehearse your symptoms in your head. You try to say the right things in the right tone so that they'll take you seriously. And still, you're told to wait. You're told it's nothing. You're sent home to deal with it alone. Many listeners have told me they feel like a burden, not just to their families, but to the system itself. Like they're too expensive, too complicated, too emotional. And once that shame sets in, it becomes a barrier to care. You start avoiding appointments not because you're better, but because you're tired of being dismissed. Have you ever left the doctor's office feeling worse than when you arrived? Not physically, but emotionally. So what do we do with all of this? We start by naming it. We tell the truth, even when the system pretends everything is fair. We stop calling it bad luck and start calling it what it is. Structural inequality. Because once you name it, you can fight it, and you don't have to fight it alone. Reclaiming power in the medical system doesn't always look like confrontation. It looks like preparation. It looks like bringing a support person to your appointment. It looks like asking for everything in writing. It looks like switching providers when you need to, even if it takes time. You don't owe your loyalty to people who didn't listen. We also find power in community. The reason empowerment in illness exists is because people like us were tired of being told to go it alone. We are rewriting the narrative. We are creating space where our stories matter, where our survival is honored, where our healing doesn't depend on being pleasant or perfect. So I ponder this question. What kind of support do you deserve? And how can you ask for it without shame? For our listeners' action plan, 1. Keep a health journal. Track symptoms, appointments, reactions, and medical conversations. You deserve a record that reflects your truth. 2. Bring someone with you. A second voice in the room helps validate your experience and keep providers accountable. 3. Ask for referrals, even if they don't offer. You can say, I'd like to be referred to a specialist. Don't wait for them to decide you're serious enough. 4. Challenge bias calmly but clearly. Try, I'm concerned this isn't being fully evaluated. Or, can you explain why you've ruled that out? 5. Find or build community. Whether it's online or local, find others who understand. Collective knowledge and shared support are powerful tools for healing. Before we leave, I would like to close with a special portion of the show I call Healing Heartbeats. This is where we allow ourselves to wallow in sorrow. Give yourself 3 minutes to laugh, cry, scream, cuss, or just sit in silence. Whatever you need to do to feel it, do it. Let the depression in for only 3 minutes. Once you reach 3 minutes, compartmentalize it and get back to living. This is a rinse and repeat behavior. You cannot let depression take over, because when it does, it will not let go. When we hear about the passing of someone, they have the day they were born and the day they pass away. There is a dash in the middle. It's not a long line, but a short dash. That dash represents your life. Go live in spite of having a chronic illness. Don't let your condition stop you. To live with chronic illness in a marginalized body is to fight on multiple fronts. You're not just managing symptoms, you're navigating a system that wasn't built for you. One that doubts your pain, delays your care, and punishes your persistence. And still, you show up. Still, you fight to be heard. Every denied referral, every dismissive glance, every unanswered question adds to the grief that most people never see. But I see you. I see the power it takes to keep moving for answers in a system designed to ignore you. I see the dignity you carry into appointments where you are disrespected. And I see your pain, not as a weakness, but as evidence of your resilience. Let this episode be a mirror. You are not broken. You are not asking for too much. You are not dramatic. You are navigating a medical system that fails to see the full humanity of people who don't fit its mold. And that failure is not your fault. It is the fault of the system itself. You are here. You are real. You are worthy of care that doesn't question your existence. I hope you're enjoying this series, The System Isn't Broken. It was built this way. Leave a comment. Answer the question in this episode. Show us your point of view on the topic. I would love to hear your feedback. Also, if there is a topic you would like me to cover, let me know. If you are a first-time listener, subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Remember, you have the strength, the heart, and the support to continue your journey. Be safe.